And welcome back to the Orange stage at Event Tech Live 2021. This is our final session of the day, and it's going to be a really interesting session. And I'm delighted to welcome Adam and Lyndon to the stage, and they'll be running through the session. The only thing I would ask at this stage is if you have any questions, that you do pose those using the Glisser app. There is a QR code just over my left-hand shoulder. If you can scan that, and then you'll be able to submit questions using that platform. If you're watching remotely, you can also do that by visiting the website, which is glsr.live/ETL21. So other than that, I have nothing left to do other than to hand over to Lyndon and Adam, and we're going to hear a really exciting story of success during a pandemic.
Thank you. Any introductions first, Adam?
I'm Adam Jones. I've run a couple of successful businesses. I've sold a couple of successful businesses. The commonality between those businesses is they were all started during some kind of pandemic or crisis. So my first business, company called Showplans, was started in 2009 off the back of the financial crisis. The second business was about a year ago, basically, during the middle of the pandemic. So I think opportunity comes in a crisis. I've also worked for big corporate companies. I worked for a company called Freeman, headed up their digital team in Europe, and I've been in this industry for a very long time.
So I've known Adam maybe since we were kids. Actually, no, not quite that long, but for quite some time. I was been an organizer for maybe about 15, 20 years, and that's when I met Adam back in 2009 when we worked in a show. But yeah, quite some time. I know lots have changed, and I think that was right after, as you said, the financial crisis, when you started Showplans, and I think we're back here again. So a few years after that, I came up with an idea for another business which is called Fair. And because of my relationship with Adam, I called him up and asked him if he wanted to make a really crazy decision and join me, a crazy startup. And that's where we are today.
I think I said no about 5 times.
So I want to ask a question, and I think everyone wants to know this. It's 2 parts of the question. So let me break it down. So it's February 2020. The world is just about shut down, and with it, the whole event industry. Every event-proof professional out there is as nervous as Prince Andrew's lawyers. Yet we hear success stories the like of Hopin, which made event tech expertise a high-demand commodity. Despite this, Adam made a decision to leave a high-level tech job, join an unheard-of, absurdly innovative event startup. So the question in my mind is, why would you have done that? Second to that, I want to know, I think we all want to know as well, is which strain of cannabis did you actually use making that decision?
Wow. I think what dawned on me, because you planted the seed a few months before, and I've always been frustrated with the events industry. I love the events industry, but I've always been frustrated that the events industry looks after themselves rather than their end users. And in my mind, I can't help but think about the end user, the visitor experience, the exhibitor experience. And my mind always lands on the exhibitor. That's the paying customer. That's the person that's paying some money to get something back. And it infuriates me how bad the exhibitor experience is leading up to the show. So the concept of Fair being a simplification of all of the criteria that you need to complete. So let's kind of think about it. It's risk assessments, method statements, stand plan uploads. If you've been an exhibitor and you've gone through that process, you know how bad it is. If you're trying to order furniture from a furniture provider, if you're trying to order lights from a lighting contractor, it's just a pain in the arse. And I have a genuine fear after the pandemic and big brands experiencing different ways of marketing their company, i.e. through virtual events, how seamless it can be. I have a genuine fear that that's going to make it, if it's easier to exhibit at something like that, then face-to-face events are at serious risk. So when Lyndon came along with the idea, it kind of kept swirling around in my mind. And I kind of decided that, yes, it's a risk, but it's a risk that I'm willing to take. And I kind of wanted to do something that's going to safeguard this industry that I've been in for a long time. The drug question I'm going to skip. I don't think I've touched the stuff since I was 17, so that didn't go down too well.
It's interesting that you say that, because when you look around, especially here, at EventTech Live, you have almost 80% of the companies that are exhibiting either doing virtual or hybrid. Everyone is doing that now. Every event company and their cousin basically is doing virtual and hybrid because of what happened. I'm quite interested in to see why you took a divergent route and have not, pushed that with fear.
One, because I think the gold rush is almost over. I think unless you pivoted on day one, you were too late. Because, I love hopping, and they kind of caught the wave as it was just flying.
Yeah.
I think what they've done is amazing. It was like a perfect storm. But unless you were kind of on that first train, there's no way you were ever gonna compete. But my background has always been in the operational tech of an event, which is it's a niche. It's a big niche. I think there's a lot of people that have a digital software mindset that can build very amazing products, but they don't have the experience of operational tools. Millions of people can be a visitor to a show, so they can experience it, they can overcome problems. Very few people have exhibited, so the number's reducing. Even fewer people have been in operations in events. So your pool of experience in that area is so small that the likelihood of someone coming from a digital background that knows everything to do with the operational running of a show is going to be tiny. It's a really small subset. And I'd say I'm probably in a pool of 5 people that have the operational experience and the digital experience to be able to build something that helps the operational running of an event.
Yeah.
So I think when you start a business, and if someone ever says to me, I want to start a business, what are the kind of key pointers that you would give? One of them is do something you know a lot about. Don't start this kind of crazy idea in an industry that you don't know, because you've kind of the Dunning-Kruger thing, where you have this kind of blind optimism. This sounds like a really great idea, I'm going to go and do it. Very quickly, you'll kind of be in a realization state that you don't know enough about the industry, you don't have the connections. So that's kind of why I went down this route. I went down this route because it's an industry I know the people, and I think, well, I've felt the first-hand benefits as well. So I've exhibited my company. I grew my first company from being at live events, speaking to people face-to-face, and I know the benefit that can be there. And if we cut out the crap, then it's a very, very enjoyable business to be part of, and it's a rewarding industry for brands to be connected to and exhibit at. So I think we just need to tweak the industry, and I want to tweak the industry to be more efficient, more consumer thinking, more simplified. I've always been of the mindset it's easy to make something difficult. It's difficult to make something easy. So that's why I went down this route.
So again, I guess you see, you took the view of the exhibitor journey, versus the view of the organizer making more money by increasing their audience.
it's much easier. I mean, anyone in sales will kind of know it's much easier to retain a customer than it is to get a new customer.
Yeah.
And I think that should be the mindset of salespeople, of kind of sales directors of events, is start spending on operational tools that make the exhibitor journey much better, because yes, it's an operational budget spend, which is normally a pittance. Sales get loads of money, marketing get loads of money, operations get nothing. Their kind of job is just to keep your costs down. But we're now in a situation where exhibitors have another channel, and if we don't make that other channel more appealing, easier to do, then retention is going to get harder. So from a sales perspective, if you want to retain customers, make it easy for them. Don't give them an excuse to leave. So, yeah.
True. So guys, I have a list of questions as well for myself, but it's an open floor. Please feel free to ask Adam. This is our opportunity to really pick his brain, so please feel free to suggest any questions. Okay.
You can use Glisser as well to submit them. You can do it anonymously as well.
Oh, good one here. Where is it? So you started Fair in the midst of the epidemic, the pandemic. Whole industry is shut down.
I can save you from this one. I can save you. I remember reading this one. So I think crisis kind of forces you to make a decision. So the first decision when I started Show Plans in 2009, I probably wouldn't be a business owner now if that hadn't happened. I was working comfortably in a job that was paying a salary. I was taking home money. But I was forced to make a decision to either go and find another job or do something that I enjoyed and build something off the back of it. So I had a choice: go and interview for McDonald's, start a business and take a risk. So I think in something like crisis, that kind of forces you to make decisions, life-changing decisions, that even if you don't know at the time how big that decision is going to be, it's a decision that you wouldn't normally have to make. Very similar this time around with the pandemic. Like you said, I was in a very good job, very good company, enjoying what I was doing, genuinely enjoying what I was doing, and enjoying almost all of the people that I was working with, almost all. But the opportunity that it gave to change something, it's very difficult to change something in a big corporate. You can change the way the big corporate functions, but you can't change an industry. I think you can do more being a big cog in a small machine than you can being a small cog in a big machine. And I think this industry needs changing. I don't think that I could have done that at Freeman's. So that kind of, to be honest, I left Freeman without this in mind. Genuinely, I kind of got to the point where I want to do something different. I want to change it up. I want to switch it up. I want to work for someone else, do something different. So this kind of it's one of those ideas that kind of just rattles when you sleep. You kind of dream about it, you think about it, and it kind of forms. So yeah, in a crisis, I think it just leads you to think differently. It forces you to make a decision to do something different.
So what would you say got Fair off the ground during that time? Because obviously it had been quite difficult. No events proof. I couldn't speak to anyone really. Everyone is either working remote, at home. Getting in contact with people was extremely difficult. What would you say that got Fair off the ground during that, difficult time?
Well, I think because you had been running Fair for what, a year and a half?
Yeah.
And I think there was
trying to.
I mean, there was a lot of there was a lot of reasons. I think one. I think, I mean, you had the experience, you've got the idea, but the software wasn't quite there.
Yeah.
The package wasn't there. It wasn't scaling. it wasn't as simple as it could potentially be. So, I mean, when I joined you, the first thing I did was scrapped everything that you had done, apart from the concept.
And it hurt.
I'm sure.
Necessary.
I'm sure it did. But I mean, at that point, we had a product that had no customers. It was costing $3,000 in hosting charges, and like, that's going to stop you from spending that on sales. So it was a necessary evil. So kind of changing the product was one thing. Building that to be something different that scaled and could get 1,000 customers on it without you going bankrupt. But also just, this is kind of been something that I've done time and time again. So I kind of know how to build the blocks that are needed to get a startup off the ground. And initially kind of talking to people, and I'm sure a lot of people who are in tech that were trying to sell back in February, March, April, we were in a holding pattern. You could demo to a customer, they would love your product, but they weren't in a position to commit because they couldn't. They didn't know if their show was going to run. So they were thinking, well, we might be running our show in summer, that passed. We might be running our show in autumn, so it's very hard to get an organizer to commit to actually buying a product when they don't know that their show is going to go ahead. So I kind of switched the model and kind of de-risked it a little bit and just said, look, if your show doesn't happen, we'll just roll that contract over. I'm not going to charge you for that show. So kind of de-risking it from the organizer's perspective was one strategy. Timing the conversation was also important. So our first few customers came on board because there was a window of opportunity at the end of summer and before the autumn shows happened. So kind of the phases that you go through where I've got time to discuss this thing, but no ability to commit. Then it went from I've got a bit of time and a bit of ability to commit, but then this tiny little window of opportunity disappeared very quickly because as soon as the green light happened for events, it was like, shit, I've got half my team and I've got to run a show in a fraction of the time that I would normally have. So even phoning someone who I would typically go to the pub with wouldn't even get a response because their back's to the wall, they're trying to run an event. So it was a very difficult sales process. And obviously being a startup, you are sales, your marketing, your product, team maker, all of these different things.
The VAT, everything.
So it's very difficult to consistently kind of stay on top of that sort of stuff. But what it did, it allowed us time, whilst we're not selling, to actually focus on what's required. Because typically in software for events, you very rarely get time for R&D. You're basically spinning up a show, looking after customers, after customers, after customers, after customers, and you never get that time to kind of sit down, really, truly analyze the product and rebuild it better. So what you need to do is kind of not get downbeat about certain things and just refocus on something else that's going to benefit the company at that point in time. So I think, it's just looking at what positive impact you can make. If you can't make a positive impact in one area, focus it somewhere else.
Okay, fair enough. We got some questions. Hey. First one.
Okay, so the question, what are the golden rules for launching a tech startup? Is event tech different to other industries? I'd say it depends on what event tech it is. Event tech for visitors, like I mentioned earlier, it's very transparent. You can be a visitor at any show. You've got access to it. You can experience it. You can experience the faults and adapt and change and come up with ideas. So I think to build a tech company for visitors, provide a solution to that, it's quite easy to come up with a concept, but it's a saturated market. It's very difficult to be successful because there's lots of people that can do it. It's harder to have that understanding when you get to kind of exhibitor level or you get to organizer level because it's not as transparent. You can't just walk into an organization and go, what are your problems? You don't feel it firsthand. And so that makes it a little bit more difficult, but it's easier because it's more of a niche. There's not as much saturation of that market. So I would say event tech has different challenges to other technology companies outside of this industry, because with technology, I mean, most technology companies these days are agile. They have some kind of agile methodology, whether it's Scrum or Kanban, but they grow in a lean way. They constantly improve and improve and improve. That's quite difficult in the events industry because you don't get time to improve or gradually improve, because when one show ends, another one starts, and you're constantly kind of delivering rather than innovating.
Yeah.
So there are differences, and what you see is kind of the struggles I see for a lot of companies who are tech first that are trying to apply something to the events industry. They struggle because it's a weird old industry. It's a very strange industry to build something for, and it's hard to understand. But those with the skill sets that are technical and understanding of the industry do tend to succeed. It's a good question, by the way.
Yeah.
Second one, in layman terms, what is fair?
I think that's a good one. We didn't really. Yeah, let's get into that. What fair actually is, what it does.
Did you text that question in
No.
yourself? Okay.
Go ahead.
So fair is a combination of two things. It's an online exhibitor manual, but taking the good things out of past online manuals and simplifying it. So online manuals traditionally have been layer of features on layer of features on layer of features and functionality, and pretty much every exhibition manual that's been developed has been developed firstly for the organizer. And that's the biggest mistake, is developing something for the organizer, because every organizer has different needs. Every organizer is thinking about themselves rather than their customer. So we've taken a slightly different approach, and primarily we care about the exhibitor, and if the exhibitor's having a good time, then ultimately the exhibitor will. So it's an online manual, and the other element is a marketplace. So as an organizer of an event, I can invite my trusted suppliers into a platform for them to sell their products and services to my exhibitors. So as the exhibitor experience is, rather than the old way of going through a 90-page document, trying to find the preferred suppliers page, and then phoning up one, emailing another, visiting a website for the other one, faxing someone else, and spending all day ordering your furniture and lighting, to having an Amazon experience where you go, I pick my carpet, I buy my lighting, I'll buy my furniture, I check out once, and we distribute the payments between the individual suppliers immediately. The consumer experience is better. The suppliers benefit from that because they have 100% access to all exhibitors, which they never get. They get the benefit of cross-sell and upsell. So if I go in to buy my electrics and I see a chair and a TV that I like, then other suppliers benefit from other suppliers. We just a quick note, quick tangent on this. We provided the tool for Event Tech Live. I'm an exhibitor, so I kind of got to use our product firsthand as a end user. I got suckered in. I needed to order my electrics, but the seats looked nice. I bought some seats, and then I bought a TV. So I was a victim of my own product and kind of buying it. It's like buying a Mars bar at the checkout, that kind of thing. But the ultimate goal is kind of combining the exhibitor manual with an online shop. Creates a really great experience for the exhibitor, because they can upload their CDN, they can upload everything that they need to do, that the organizer needs to do, whilst purchasing their furniture and lighting. So combining those two is really important. Initially, actually, the first concept didn't have the exhibitor manual. It was just a shop, and I loved the idea, but I struggled with the idea of how the hell are we going to get exhibitors to this shop in the first place? How are they going to find it? What's going to motivate them to find that shop? But the exhibitor manual, every exhibitor has to log in. Every exhibitor has to complete their risk assessment and everything else. So you're parking the bus in front of the shop by combining the two. So the shop benefits from having the online manual benefits from having the shop. So,
Exactly,
was that layman terms enough? Give me a show of hands if you don't understand what I've just said. Sweet. Okay, we're good.
how did you find your platform? I say, and how did you market it? So I'll answer the first part of it. So yeah, as I said, I have been an organizer for quite a few years, and working for many other companies, many of the big organizers out there, Informer, etc., Hive, etc. But when I left and I started to do my own shows, I'm really good at the marketing, I'm really good at the idea, the concept. But when it came down to the operations part of it, I'm totally shit. Totally shit. And it was always a pain for me to actually, liaise with the exhibitors and constantly back and forth with them, exchanging emails and making sure they're happy. And when a good friend of mine, he came up with an idea as well. I'm a Trekkie, I'll call him Scotty. And he came up with a certain idea of how could we make life really easy for the organizer, first of all, or the startup organizer, to get away from all the tasks in management and the logistics with dealing with the exhibitors. And that's more or less how that, the fair idea was formed. So it started there of just me trying to solve my own initial problem that I had running my shows. So, and then we'll go into how do you market it. So that's where the whole idea came up about fair. Yeah.
So market, again, it's because it's quite a niche. It's very focused marketing. Our target customer is the event organizer. So events like this, very good to launching a product, making sure you kind of know what the event magazines, the industry magazines, the places to go, the networking events, like the event tech kind of community is amazing. So what Adam Parry's done with this is great because there's a lively community and kind of very supportive community. So I think from a marketing perspective, because it is such a small pool, it's probably different to a lot of other kind of industries and launching and that kind of stuff. You still have to do it. You still have to promote yourself on social media and kind of use those channels effectively. But a lot of it is who you know and who you have connections to and who you can kind of get introduced to. And I mean, as with show plans the first time round, it was a lot of our business came from exhibitions, but a lot of it came from word of mouth. And there's a natural product cycle. There's a natural adoption cycle. You get kind of your innovators who your first step. They're very hard to find. Innovators are very hard to find especially in the events industry because everyone's quite risk averse. So if you can find an innovator, that gives you your first couple of customers as proof of concept. If you can then get your early adopters, then you kind of find a few more of those. Most people, if you kind of look at an adoption chart, it's a bell curve. It's your kind of followers that gets you your kind of big numbers.
Very true, because thinking about it, that's where, I got stuck. When I went out initially selling fair, great concept, met with those organizers, they loved the idea. Great. When it came down to, should we go ahead? They'd always say, so Lyndon, who else is doing this? No one. Great concept. I don't want to be the guinea pig though, and I would always be stuck in there. No one wants to be the guinea pig, and that was always a problem. The early adopters was really hard to get on board.
And I think you can overcome that with either hiring people that know the industry that have the relationships already, or utilizing your own existing relationships, and that's kind of that's partly why you got me on board, because I know enough people to convince. I mean, it's still hard. I've worked with some of these people for 15 years, and they still say, not yet. A couple more customers, maybe I'll have the conversation, but not quite yet. It's like one of our first customers was Media 10, and that's amazing. I mean, to get Media 10 on board, Media 10's interesting because they were one of our first customers in the previous company. So they are true innovators. They're willing to take a risk for the benefits of the success. And that's really good kind of partner to find. And I kind of define them as partner rather than client because they're willing to take that risk. Being very targeted, being very strategic over who you're contacting. It's more of a strategic approach rather than a kind of scattergun of is this amazing product, let's see who comes and buys it. That won't work.
In the early days as well, you said whereas we could have like handled a company that's as big as Euromoney or Informer, maybe it wasn't the right time yet in the early days to go after that company, but really strategically pick who you actually target initially.
Honestly, if we went after something like Reed in the early days, we could have spiked the interest. We could have got through the door, but we would have then been tangled up with all of their kind of onboarding process. We probably wouldn't have met their penetration test. We probably wouldn't have met their technical kind of criteria, and we'd have spent more time trying to go through a 90-page document to show that we were kind of legitimate and kind of risk-free, because that's what they're looking for, is risk-free, completely risk-free, and no startup's ever going to be risk-free. So I kind of didn't want to go after those. As much as I'd love it, I just didn't want to spend my time with process of going through these things and submitting kind of penetration tests and all of that stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, what are the fail fast, hard lessons that you learned during this process?
I think you have to be willing to fail. That's the thing. You'll never get. Actually, you never want to start a business unless you're willing to fail. And I think being aware of failure is not a bad thing. Yeah. Failure isn't a bad thing. It's an opportunity to learn. And I try and coach our development team to think like that. If you're not failing, you're not innovating. And that's always my mindset. If there's a fear of failure, you're basically shackled. You're never going to think outside the box. You're never going to do anything slightly different. So I embrace failure, and I kind of expect it from time to time. And I don't kind of get downbeat when something doesn't quite work. I just kind of learn from it, I adapt it, and then try again, try something different. The one thing I would learn is don't keep trying the same thing over and over. Obviously, everyone knows that
Sanity.
one. Yeah, but I mean, actually, sometimes you do. I mean, I read somewhere you've got to say something 10 times to an individual before they actually understand what you're saying. So kind of, I'm finding that now there's people I've spoken to 5 times about FAIR, and now they're starting to kind of the penny's dropping. So it's kind of it's sinking in now. But yeah, so
interesting. What does the next year to 2 years look like for FAIR?
What is the
coming
next
out of this situation?
What I think I'm more excited about FAIR than I was about Show Plans. And Show Plans was a huge success. Was ultimately acquired by Freeman, a massive successful company. So I think that kind of subconsciously speaks volume to me that I'm more excited about this. I think the timing possibly couldn't be worse. Like we're talking to organisers who don't have the headspace to even consider kind of innovating or changing something. They just want to get their show across the line. But I am excited about this, that when I do get to demo, the number of people that kind of almost take a sigh of relief. It's like, yeah, we've known this has been a problem for 15 years. I'm glad someone's finally done it. And even like whoever you speak to, whether it's an organizer or a supplier or an exhibitor, the feedback is always, oh, boy, why haven't you done this? And sometimes kind of the best ideas, you kind of think, well, surely someone's done this already. Yeah, I mean, you see it on Dragon's Den, you're like, someone must have done this. It's bloody obvious, surely. And this feels like one of those ideas. And people say to it, yeah, someone else is doing this. Okay, go find them. Because if you genuinely think someone else is doing this, please put it my way, because I've spent tons of time trying to find someone else who's doing it. So, yeah. Okay. How long have we got?
I think we're just about done. So, do you want to do one more question, Lyndon, and then we'll wrap it up from there?
Well, last from me, what's your, I guess, especially after this, what would you say is your favorite quote when shit hits the fan?
Oh man, shit hits the fan.
It happened quite a lot.
That's a really difficult one. You've just thrown that in there. I have no preparation for that. Shit hits the fan. I genuinely think you've got to take a step back. So when shit hits the fan, it's quite easy just to sit at your desk and try and work your way through it. Sometimes you just need a bit of headspace. Get outside, go for a walk, and do something different that stops you thinking about it. And I'm terrible for switching off. I can't switch off. I constantly think. I don't get to sleep till like 1 o'clock in the morning because I'm lying there trying to sleep thinking about it. But I think giving yourself headspace to calm yourself down and clear your mind is a really good thing to do, because you don't make rational decisions when you're tired, grumpy, scared, whatever it is. So kind of, yeah, when shit hits the fan, just walk away, chill out, come back to it.
Walk away, chill out, come back to it. Okay.
Don't smoke drugs.
Right,
Lovely stuff. Right, I think we'll leave it there. So yeah, just want to say thank you very much for coming to join us on the Orange stage today. An amazing day of content. Make sure you watch it back on EventTech Live's website and through the social media channels as well. Another day tomorrow of great content. If any of you are here, please do feel free to pop round. I know Adam and Lyndon have a stand here, so make sure to go and see them before you go home. But yeah, all that remains is to say thank you very much for coming and hope you have a lovely evening. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.